some biomarkers of dementia in CKD and about preventive strategies, how to prevent cognitive impairment in CKD. So this views and reviews is mainly based on this article, which was recently published in March 2025 in Brain Journal. That is on the relationship between kidney health and neurodegenerative disease by Suo et al. So coming to a brief introduction, the global burden of CKD is rising with estimated prevalence rates of 11 to 13%, which is increasing to nearly 40% in persons who are above the age of 60 years. And it is strongly associated with both cognitive impairment and dementia. And as the renal function worsen, the incidence of dementia also is found to be increasing. And studies have shown that there is an association between CKD, especially with neurodegeneration, that is especially Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So in these articles, in the first article, it shows the prevalence of cognitive impairment and its predictors in CKD patient. This is a systematic review, and around 25,000 CKD patients were included. And the overall prevalence of cognitive impairment was found to be 40%, which was very much higher than the general population. And it was around 44% in Asian population. And the most common cognitive impairment which was found in these patients was attention and executive dysfunction. And the cognitive impairment was much higher in those patients, that is 53% in those patients undergoing hemodialysis compared to peritoneal dialysis. And in this article, we can see that CKD was associated to Alzheimer's disease. That is, there was a 1.14 increased likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease in CKD patients compared to the general population. And this article shows an association between kidney function and Parkinson's disease. So, why is this neurodegeneration more common in CKD patients? We will get into that. But before that, let's look at the brief pathophysiology of neurodegenerative disease. So, coming to Alzheimer's disease, we know that due to an oxidative stress in advanced stage in chronic inflammatory states, there is a reduced clearance of amyloid and deposition of this amyloid plaques. And because of the accumulation of amyloid plaques, there is hyperphosphorylation of tau, which forms the neurofibrillary tangles. This is a basic pathology which happens in Alzheimer's disease. And this can have a significant impact on behavioral and cognitive functions. And coming to Parkinson's disease, the main pathology is the loss of dopaminergic neurons in substantia nigra, and there is a progressive accumulation of alpha-synuclein, which is an important constituent of Lewy body. And because of the loss of dopaminergic neurons, we get all the symptoms in Parkinson's disease. And basic exact etiology of Parkinson's disease is unknown, but most likely multiple genetic, environmental, and lifestyle factors are included. And few risk factors which have been identified include diabetes, anemia, and vitamin D deficiency, and hypertension. And those CKD patients who are affected with PD, they experience more severe cognitive impairment, psychological disorders, orthostatic hypotension, fatigue, and hallucination. So now let's look into possible mechanisms which connect this kidney disease to neurodegeneration. So in this article, they have mainly given all these possible mechanisms. That is a vascular hypothesis, strain vessel theory, impact of biological substance, impact of diabetes, dialysis, and role of genetics, which we will come into in detail. So coming to the first one, which is a vascular theory. So both for CKD as well as dementia, there are common risk factors, that is hypertension and dyslipidemia, which lead on to atherosclerosis, and and in CKD we have a chronic inflammatory state which will cause endothelial dysfunction. So because of this endothelial dysfunction, there is hypoperfusion and recurrent hypoxia and ischemic episodes happening in the brain, which can lead to cerebral small vessel disease, that is white matter hyperintensities, silent brain infarcts, and microbleeds in the brain. So that is a vascular theory. And then comes a strain vessel theory. In that put forward concept of kidney brain axis. That is, both the brain and the kidney, they have a common factor. That is, in the brain we have the cerebral perforating arteries, and in the kidney we have the juxtamedullary efferent arterioles. And both these vessels, they are called strain vessels because they are low resistance, high perfusion vessel, because the kidney and the brain have to have good blood flow. So in case of, so they have to maintain a strong vascular tone to provide high pressure gradient coming from larger vessels. So in case of hypertension, these vessels are the one which are first to get damaged. And so in the kidney, when the juxtamedullary efferent arteriole gets damaged, it causes albuminuria. And in the brain, it causes blood-brain barrier dysfunction. So when you have albuminuria, that is an early sign of a strain vessel injury, and it corresponds to the cerebral blood-brain barrier dysfunction. And this albuminuria in turn can damage the microcirculation, and it stimulates the blood-brain barrier breakdown, and then again lead on to cerebral small vessel disease. So that is a kidney brain axis and the strain vessel theory. And the albuminuria along it will impede the clearance of amyloid beta plaques, which is a main pathology in Alzheimer's disease. So because of reduced renal function, the clearance of amyloid beta plaques is again impaired, which can lead on to further neurodegeneration like Alzheimer's disease. Coming to impact of different biological substance. So in CKD, we know that due to reduced clearance, there is an accumulation of uremic toxins, and this uremic toxins will lead on to oxidative stress and overproduction of reactive oxygen substances, which can lead on to blood-brain barrier disruption. And there is reduced production of erythropoietin, which will lead on to anemia, which again it can lead on to cognitive decline. And in CKD, we have vitamin D deficiency as well, which can lead on to overactivation of RAS system, and then again lead on to oxidative stress and onset of neurodegeneration, leading on to Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. So that is the impact of different biological substances in CKD. Coming to this overactivation of RAS. So in CKD, we know that there is reduced renal perfusion due to which this RAS system gets overactivated. So when the RAS gets overactive, there is more production of angiotensin. And in the brain, we have the angiotensin 1 receptors much more higher than the angiotensin 2 receptors. And when there is overproduction of angiotensin, it can actually lead on to activation of this NADPH oxidase superoxide axis, which will lead on to more oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and damage to the brain. So in this RAS system, it is expressed more in the nigrostriatal pathway and the basal ganglion. So multiple studies have shown that this AC inhibitors and ARBs have which inhibits the RAS system. They have a neuroprotective role in these degenerative disease like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And in Parkinson's disease, there is a decrease, there is a loss of dopaminergic neurons, and there is decrease in dopaminergic function, due to which we know that the dopamine receptors are more sensitive. Like that, the angiotensin 1 receptors also become more sensitive. That will again lead on to over stimulation of the RAS pathway, and then lead on to oxidative stress and PD pathogenesis. Coming to impact of diabetes. So diabetes mellitus, it is a chronic inflammatory state which can lead on to development of CKD, and it can lead on to more oxidative stress, which can cause blood-brain barrier dysfunction and more cognitive impairment. And coming to impact of dialysis, so it was found that this neurodegenerative disease and cognitive impairment was much more higher in those CKD patients undergoing hemodialysis when compared to the peritoneal dialysis patient. So this is because during dialysis, there is some blood pressure and volume fluctuation. And during this time, the patient can have hypotension. So this will lead on to hypoxia and multiple small silent infarcts in the brain, which lead on to cognitive impairment. And during this time, there can be a shift of electrolytes, and then there is a change in osmotic pressure gradient and increased brain content and cerebral edema, again, which can lead on to cognitive impairment. And we give anticoagulation like heparin during the time of dialysis. So the CKD patient already have a higher tendency of bleeding, so they can develop hemorrhagic and ischemic stroke during this time. So all these factors contribute to dementia in CKD. And hemodialysis patients are 3 times more likely to have the severe cognitive impairment when compared to the non-dialysis patient. Coming to the role of genetics, so CKD and related biomarkers like the albumin creatine ratio and the GFR, as well as neurodegenerative disorders, are influenced by certain genetic factors. So the main genes which are reviewed in this article is one is a type 4 collagen genes, apolipoprotein E, clusterin, sortoline and sortoline related receptor 1, brain derived neurotrophic factor, and LRRK2. So coming to the first one, which is type 4 collagen, that is called for inflammation and clearance of beta fibrils, and it has well-known association with dementia, and it has an association with kidney injury and fibrosis. And the sertolin 1 is an intracellular sorting receptor protein, which is a risk factor for CKD and cardiovascular disease. And sertolin receptor 1, it is a risk factor. It is found to be a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. And then brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So these neurotrophins are required for the neuron survival, differentiation, synaptic plasticity, and BDNF mutation variants can cause insulin resistance in CKD, and it is associated with lower cognitive performance and increased risk of AD. And LRRK2, we know that it is a familiar cause of late onset sporadic PD. So it is this LRRK2 is also highly expressed in kidney, lungs, and brain. And in a rat model, they have shown that the treatment with LRRK2 inhibitors for PD could induce morphological changes in the kidney. So these 5 genes are reviewed in this article, out of which the first this type of and BDNF can be our upcoming potential genetic markers for AD. And then they have reviewed the current evidence which support the kidney disease and neurodegeneration. So in these articles, the lower EEG associated with dementia and volume atrophy, and CKD was associated with 1.4 of AD, and was also associated with Parkinson's disease. And they have also given 3 articles which showed that there was no evidence between CKD and this neurodegenerative disease. Now coming to the risk factors of cognitive impairment in CKD. So we have looked at the vascular risk factors and about the blood-brain barrier disruption and inflammation which is occurring in the CKD patients. Along with that, there are other risk factors also which can contribute to cognitive impairment in CKD patients. That is mainly the metabolic disturbances, the hyponatremia and the potassium imbalance, and metabolic acidosis, which can contribute to the cognitive impairment. And also hormonal imbalance, that is these patients have anemia, vitamin D deficiency, and hyperparathyroidism, which can lead on to cognitive impairment. And the patient-related risk factors on they're always on multiple medications, polypharmacy for various symptoms. So this anticholinergics and those quick action, GABAergic drugs, opioids, corticosteroids, antibiotics, all of these can have negative impact on cognition. So we have to optimize their medication. And then these patients, CKD patients, also have gut dysbiosis. That is a kidney gut brain interplay in cognitive decline in CKD patient. There is increased in the gut. So these uremic toxins are found in early stage of CKD patients itself. And these uremic toxins can affect the blood-brain barrier dysfunction as well as the gut-blood barrier dysfunction. And so giving probiotics in CKD patients has been shown to have an improvement in cognition. So this gut dysbiosis should be treated in CKD patients. So these are the basic risk factors for cognitive impairment in CKD. Coming to how to identify and diagnose cognitive impairment. So screening and diagnosing CKD related cognitive impairment needs a comprehensive and multifaceted approach. We have to look at the patient's medical history, the severity and duration of CKD, the treatment regimen, and the impact of comorbidities, especially diabetes and hypertension. And the screening tools which we use are MMSE and Montreal Cognitive Assessment. So the CKD patients initially, the cognitive impairment they have is mainly executive dysfunction. So the issue with MMSE, it may fail to detect mild cognitive impairment and it does not assess executive function. So for these, MoCA is considered as more sensitive than MMSE. And alternatives include clock drawing test, the trail making test part B, and digital symbol substitution test, which all look at mainly the executive dysfunction. And when a screening test is positive, a thorough neuropsychological evaluation should be considered. And we always there is a higher prevalence of major depressive disorder in CKD patients, so it should be ruled out. And depressive symptoms should be routinely and quantitatively assessed when evaluating the cognitive function of CKD patient. And the timing of cognitive assessment should also be carefully considered. That is, there is evidence that the neuropsychological evaluation performed shortly before the HD session or after 1 day is associated with higher global cognitive performance. So based on these results, it is recommended that we should do the cognitive assessment at least 1 hour after the HD session. But in peritoneal dialysis patient, this fluctuation was not found. Coming to biomarkers of cognitive function and dementia in CKD. So along with the genetic markers which we have earlier looked into, that is apolipoprotein E, clusterin, sortolin and sortolin related receptor 1 and BDNF. These are promising non-invasive genetic biomarkers which will come in the future. So along with that, a recent study by Lee et al. Had shown that he has retrieved gene expression database in 327 patients with AD and CKD and 318 normal patients from the gene expression omnibus. And he has found that Jun-D proto-oncogene, ALF transcription elongation factor 1, zinc finger protein 36 like 1, they are also potential co-diagnostic markers for AD markers for AD and CKD. But it requires external validation. Coming to the imaging biomarkers in CKD. So in CKD, there is increased prevalence of cerebral small vessel disease as indicated by cerebral microbleeds and white matter hyperintensities. And these patients exhibit increased gray matter volume in certain brain regions such as bilateral caudate and thalamus. There is increased gray matter volume. Urinary albumin to creatine ratio have been independently associated with brain changes and microstructural alterations. And a study had shown that higher EGFR is associated with larger hippocampal volume and better cognition, and albuminuria was associated with hippocampal atrophy. Coming to the kidney biomarkers, the estimated GFR, which is creatine based or cystatin C based, and albuminuria, these are the two markers which are consistently associated with cognitive dysfunction with kidney disease. And longitudinal studies have shown that low EGFR did not predict the cognitive decline, but a rapid decline in the GFR is associated with dementia. And mild to moderate EGFR reduction is shown to have an association with impaired executive function. Coming to biomarkers of AD in CKD. So various biomarkers like neuronal and astrocytic biomarkers like NSC, inflammatory markers like CRP, TNF alpha, IL-1, and beta amyloid peptides like A beta 40 and A beta 42, and uremic toxins like indoxyl sulfate and tau proteins. They are all related to neuronal injury, and they have been elevated in those patients having AD in CKD. However, uh, studies performed so far are observational studies and they are hypothesis generated. Now, coming to the strategies to prevent cognitive impairment in CKD. So, we need a comprehensive approach which involve pharmacological as well as non-pharmacological measures in those patients having cognitive impairment in CKD. So, the pharmacological approaches are one thing is a patient will be on multiple drugs, polypharmacy. So, as much as on the brain. So optimization of the drugs is always important. And then uh, though some drugs have been found to have a neuroprotective role. One is erythropoietin stimulating agent, which is found to have a neuroprotective and neurotrophic effect in neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's and dementia in CKD patients. So this was a recent systematic review which included 562 articles involving around 41,000 patients, and they have it included mainly observational study and 9 RCTs also, and it looked into the efficacy of erythropoietin as a neuroprotective agent in CKD. So this erythropoietin, the proposed mechanism by which it can be neuroprotective include direct and indirect effect. Direct effect is it reduces the neuronal death inflammation. It promotes oligodendrocyte differentiation and maturation, and it promotes white matter integrity in the brain. And indirect effect, it will reduce anemia and reduce the uremic toxins. So, so it was found to have this neuroprotective effect. And then the acetylcholinesterase inhibitor antagonists are associated with a lower risk of CKD progression in patients with Alzheimer's disease. So, so we can use donepezil, galantamine, and rivastigmine. For donepezil and rivastigmine, there is no dose adjustment required, and memantine it requires dose adjustment. And the newer anti-amyloid antibody treatments, the trials have excluded the patients with CKD, and so CKD patients have a higher chance for hemorrhage also. Coming to so CKD patients have this vulnerability to cerebrovascular events. We have to control all the risk factors. Lifestyle modifications like smoking cessation, healthy diet, weight restriction, regular exercise should be actively encouraged. And for primary prevention, this antiplatelet therapy has insufficient those patients on dialysis, we have to use apixaban or warfarin. And for blood pressure control, the target blood pressure is less than 120/80 in CKD patients, and the high antihypertensive agent of choice is the RAS blockers. And lipid lowering therapy, all CKD patients above 50 years should be started on statin or ezetimibe. And those patients uh, who are undergoing dialysis, we should not start him on statin, but if he's already on statin, we have to continue statin. And all the diabetic CKD patients should be started on SGLT2 inhibitors. So this SGLT2 inhibitors, they have many properties like enhancing glycemic control, exerting anti-atherosclerotic and anti-inflammatory effect, and improving cerebrovascular function. And they have a potential neuroprotective role as well. They have a cardioprotective and neuroprotective role in CKD patients. Patients that is during the intradialytic period, they have given cognitive training as well as exercise training. Cognitive training, tablet-based brain games were given, and social isolation should be reduced. That is, research had shown that socially isolated older adults with MC has shown in 30-minute conversation 2 to 4 times a week may reduce cognitive decline. And sleep hygiene, CKD patients have many sleep-related problems like uh, obstructive sleep apnea, and sleep apnea can reduce the risk of future dementia by around 35%. Coming to management of behavioral and neuropsychiatric symptoms. So a person living with dementia often have this neurobehavioral symptoms. 80% of the patients with dementia will experience such symptoms. And so the mainstay, if it is mild, is like behavioral strategies such as redirection and distraction. But if it is not possible to control with that, we can use a pharmacological agents. And in CKD, we can use SSRI, quetiapine, olanzapine, trazodone. All of these drugs do not need any dose adjustment in CKD. But we have to be more careful regarding the side effects like orthostatic hypotension and excessive sedation can be more in a CKD patient. And so to conclude, cognitive impairment and dementia is highly prevalent in CKD patient. It is there is a complex and multifactorial pathophysiology behind this, which we have already seen. And the current biomarkers used are EGFR, albuminuria, and ACR. But there are many potential genetic as well as other biomarkers which are upcoming. And multi-domain interventions including diet, exercise, cognitive training, and controlling the vascular risk factors would be useful for preventing cognitive impairment in CKD patients. Thank you. I have
Are they different from the mechanically proposed patients diabetes?
there is a link between that, sir. There is a link between the mechanisms. That is, the risk factors are common, but in CKD patients and some other mechanisms are also there. Like CKD is a chronic inflammatory condition which can promote the oxidative stress and mitochondrial dysfunction, which can promote neurodegeneration. And there is more accumulation of uremic toxin
Kidney being the major respiratory system of the body, handles the most of the dietary intake, whatever you're taking. So when we are counseling our patients, our neurology patients in whom neurodegenerative disorders forms a major share of the disease bulk, we should be emphasizing more on the importance of leading on a healthy life pattern with proper diet and proper exercise, overall well-being. It is not a very umbrella kind of an advice which we used to regard as previously. It is a very specific neuroprotective measure that is the only proven neuroprotective measure actually to control the neurodegenerative disorders. So the age-old advice that we are what we eat is very important and being more emphasized here. And with that, we'll conclude the session.